If there's one thing children love, it's coming up with a completely random idea and deciding that it's their life's project. My 10-year-old son was no exception. He woke up inspired, full of energy, and decided he wanted to set up a lemonade stand in front of the house. He'd seen it in a movie, and, in his mind, it meant that in a few hours he'd be swimming in money and fame like a millionaire small businessman. As a father, I just wanted to see him happy. We got a small table, made a very colorful sign with ice-cold lemonade, $1, cut up the lemons, mixed them with water and sugar, got some disposable cups, and put everything right there on the sidewalk in front of our house. He was very excited. I stood off to the side, just watching, because there's nothing more fun than seeing a child think he's a business genius. And then, the famous Karen appeared. Every neighborhood has a Karen. Ours was the embodiment of the condominium rules in human form. Blonde, with sunglasses the size of saucers, always with a thermos in her hand, as if she was busy in important meetings. But, in reality, she spent the day checking up on other people's lives. She stopped right in front of the stall, looked at everything as if she were witnessing a criminal act, and crossed her arms.
Where's the license for this sale?
At first I thought she was joking, but no, she was serious, as serious as a tax inspector. I stared at her, expecting her to laugh and say it was just a prank, but what came out was a lecture on regulations, food safety, and how you can't sell food without a permit. I stopped for a second to take in the absurdity. My son wasn't selling raw sushi on a dodgy street corner. It was just lemonade. But to the woman, this seemed like the beginning of the end of civilization. I tried to argue, to explain that it was just an innocent prank, that he just wanted to have fun. But she didn't like the answer. In fact, Karen never liked anything. And then she pulled out her cell phone and started dialing. Yes, she called the police. I had to blink a few times to believe what I was seeing. My son, poor thing, stood paralyzed holding a glass of lemonade, not understanding what the hell was going on. And Karen, with the greatest calm in the world, started talking to the police as if she were denouncing a cartel of illegal things operating in the middle of the neighborhood. It was only when she turned to my son and let out a forced smile, saying that he could be arrested for selling without permission, that I felt the real hatred rising up. She was threatening my son. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. But deep down, I already knew that this woman was only there to delay other people's lives. I'm not the type to lose my temper easily. But when a middle-aged woman, bored with her own life, looks at my 10-year-old son and suggests that he could be arrested for selling lemonade, I think it's more than justified to feel a slight urge to throw a lemon in her face. My son stood there, holding the disposable cup, blinking in confusion. He didn't understand, because it didn't make any sense. And while I was trying to pull myself together, Karen was describing our makeshift stall to the police with the seriousness of someone denouncing a money laundering scheme.
Yes, in front of my house, an illegal sale, without any permission. Oh, right, that's at least 2 buckets of lemonade.
I wanted to laugh. 2 buckets! Yes, ma'am, call the FBI. Except there was nothing funny about it, because my son, who until 5 minutes ago had been excited about his little business, was now holding the sign as if he were committing a real crime. He looked at me a little blankly. Dad, are we in trouble? And that's when I really got angry. If Karen wanted to call the police, fine, then let the police come. I sat down on a folding chair next to the table, crossed my arms and waited. If an officer really did show up to solve the serious problem of the lemonade sale, I wanted to see how he would react when he realized that he had wasted his time with it. And of course, a police car did show up. The scene was pathetic. My son, on one side, holding a glass of lemonade, the colorful and harmless stand next to him. Karen, on the other, standing at the curb with her arms crossed and a victorious look on her face, as if she had just stopped a bank robbery. The policeman got out of the car slowly, fastened his seatbelt, and looked at the scene with a puzzled expression. I saw on his face the exact moment he realized he was there to settle a dispute over lemonade. Karen was the first to speak.
This man allowed an illegal commercial activity to take place on the sidewalk.
She pointed dramatically at the table. The policeman looked, then looked at me. Is this serious? And it was at that moment that I knew that he too thought the whole thing was ridiculous. But the woman wasn't going to give up that easily. And of course, she had one final trump card. She pointed to the poster, as if she had just found the definitive proof of the crime.
They didn't even put an ingredient warning. That's a danger for allergy sufferers.
Because everyone knows that lemonade can contain traces of lemon. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. But the policeman started laughing, as everyone does when this happens. If one day someone had told me that I would be standing in the middle of the street, next to a makeshift lemonade stand, watching a policeman try not to laugh while a woman went crazy about the local economy, I wouldn't have believed it. But there I was, living this unbelievable experience, because Karen decided that nothing in the neighborhood could happen without her blessing. The woman was seething with anger, pointing at the poster as if she had found evidence of a major criminal scheme. The policeman, on the other hand, had the expression of someone who really wanted to be anywhere else. He looked at me, then at the woman, then at my son, and every second I saw on his face the realization that he had just wasted his time. It was then that he made a decision. He took a deep breath, adjusted his belt, and pulled out his wallet. The woman was already preparing herself for the moment of victory, thinking he was going to ask for some absurd documentation. But instead, he took out $1 and put it on the table. "Give me a drink." Karen froze. She was so perplexed that, for a second, I thought she was going to short-circuit right there. Her eyes went wide as if she had just witnessed the end of Western civilization. My son looked at me, not knowing if this was a prank or if the policeman really was buying lemonade. But it was real. The policeman picked up the glass, took a sip, and looked like he was analyzing a sophisticated drink, like a lemonade sommelier. Then he shook his head slowly, thoughtfully, as if he were about to deliver a very important verdict. "This is really good." It was at that moment that I realized that Karen wasn't just angry, she was humiliated. Her plan had gone so wrong that, instead of seeing my son being dragged away in handcuffs for illegal commercial activities, there was now a policeman praising the lemonade. But, of course, she wasn't going to accept defeat just like that. She took a deep breath, crossed her arms, and tried to regain her composure.
Well, if the police don't do anything, I'll take it up with the Residents Association myself.
Yes, she was, in fact, escalating the problem to the neighborhood's parallel government. And without further ado, she turned on her heels and marched back home. The policeman finished his drink, patted my son on the shoulder, and got into his car. But before he left, he looked at me and let out a little warning. "Good luck with that one." And off he went, leaving behind a confused child, a tired father, and a woman determined to turn a bucket of lemonade into an international problem. The question now was, what the hell was she going to get up to next? After the embarrassment with the police, any normal person would have moved on. But this Karen wasn't just anyone. Suddenly, the street began to fill up with neighbors. First, a lady with a shopping trolley, then an elderly couple, a man with a dog. Little by little, more and more people appeared, gathering right in front of my house. And who was at the center of it all, gesticulating as if she were making a political speech? Karen. I watched the scene for a few seconds in disbelief. That woman had actually called the neighbors to discuss the lemonade threat. It was an unofficial public hearing, and I was the defendant. I left the house and approached, expecting some kind of absurdity. It was only when I appeared that Karen raised her voice to make sure everyone could hear me.
As you can see, the peace and order of our neighborhood is at risk. First, they start with a simple lemonade stand. Then, who's to say they won't expand into something bigger?
As Karen spoke, I observed the faces around us. Some looked confused, others were clearly there for the entertainment. The man with the dog whispered something to his wife, who was holding back her laughter. Karen realized she wasn't getting the reaction she wanted, so she made her final argument.
What if someone drinks that lemonade and gets sick? What if there's a lawsuit? Do you really want this kind of irresponsibility in our neighborhood?
Of course, because everyone knows that lemon, sugar, and water are very dangerous ingredients. At that point, I decided I'd heard enough nonsense. I crossed my arms and faced Karen, waiting for her to finish the play. She looked me up and down and arched her eyebrows. The surrounding group remained silent, waiting for my response. Then, I took a deep breath and finally spoke. "You know what? I think you're right. This could really hurt the neighborhood." Karen smiled, thinking she had won. But before she could celebrate, I finished my sentence. "So, to avoid any problems, I'm going to donate all the money raised to an animal shelter." It was like throwing a bucket of cold water on her. The whole neighborhood cheered. Someone even clapped. Karen, on the other hand, stood there motionless, processing the fact that now, if she kept complaining, she would look like a villain who hates puppies. The tables had turned. But was she going to accept defeat? Unfortunately, not yet. She couldn't just shout that Donating money to animals is an affronstration of the neighborhood order, because then she would officially be declared the biggest shrew in town. But she still tried.
Do you really think that changes anything? The issue here is respect for the rules.
But no one else was listening. While she was trying to regain her attention, a lady put $20 on the table and said to my son, "Congratulations, dear. It's good to see children learning to help those in need." If Karen had been a cartoon, her head would have exploded. But that's when the icing on the cake came. The policeman from before walked down the street again. I think he was doing a normal patrol, but when he saw the movement, he stopped the car. He got out of the car slowly, took a look at the stall, saw how many people were around, and arched his eyebrows. "What's going on here now?" And it was one of the neighbors who answered with a satisfied smile. "We've decided to support the boys' initiative. The money from the sale is going to an animal shelter." The policeman looked at the table full of dollar bills. Then he looked at Karen, who at that moment looked like she was going to have an aneurysm. You could see the frustration seeping out of her pores. And that's when the policeman, in no hurry at all, took another dollar from his wallet and put it on the table. "Then give me another glass." The neighborhood erupted in applause. This Karen has completely lost it. What else could she do? Call the police to complain that the cops were buying lemonade? She huffed, fixed her sunglasses as if that would bring dignity back, and marched home, defeated. And she never spoke to me again. Moral of the story? If you're going to pick a fight with a lemonade stand, make sure you don't come out of it looking like a dog-hating monster. If you liked this story, you already know, right? Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and activate the bell so you don't miss the next stories. Want more dramas like this? We've selected 2 videos you'll love. Just click on the card on the screen. See you in the next video.